Back out here in the warm studio.
The warm studio.
Our cold studio, or should I say
our house.
200-year-old farmhouse. Yeah.
Unbearable.
Oh my goodness. So anyway.
I have a riddle question. Riddle question.
A riddle question. Okay, go.
Does it start with, there once was a man from Nantucket? No.
Okay.
No. The greatest product known to mankind. That was invented in the 1890s. What is it? Do you know?
No. Go ahead.
The filing cabinet.
Oh. Huh. I knew that. There's a reason why you're keeping that from me.
Yep.
So that would be right up there with the Corvette.
Yeah, 1950s.
Yeah.
Both Both were produced and completed with locks at the time it went out onto the floor.
Oh my God.
I digress.
Have you guys noticed the just kind of the lunacy of things that we see?
Yeah.
So
that's kind of the opposite of what I said, the normalization. Now we're getting into the chaotic craziness.
Yeah. So the all the same stuff basically that everybody was like, Trump's the worst human being on the planet.
Yeah.
Is now
we're gonna raid his house.
Very tightly boomeranged back onto the accuser. It's just
yeah,
funny how that seems to be working, but it's odd because it and I've said this for a while. It really feels like there's just no adults left. I mean, for a while there we had some adults, but from military to your news media to all these people that are supposed to be world leaders, it's just like none of them are really adults. Like when we were kids, we would think of, our school principal, or we would think of, the mayor of the town or the police chief.
The authorities.
Yeah, the president, whatever. That these were adults. These were serious people that took things, took whatever it was that they did with their job seriously.
Yeah.
A grave matter. And now it's just like it's like a never-ending circus.
No, who's running this Sky Ballon show now?
Yeah, and that is some of the questions we have.
Look at the stuff, like, go back to the filing cabinet joke. Look at what's going on. We're dealing, if you're of a thinking person's mindset, you're probably watching in real time what's happening. They had a freaking news conference this morning with the man.
Oh.
And that was like watching Saturday morning cartoons with the sound off from like the 70s. I mean,
sadly, it was like watching a human butter stick melt in the microwave. I mean, he fell apart. He literally was falling apart.
And they let that man lead the sermon yesterday at the Martin Luther King Church.
Oh. Anyway, so.
But look what they did to Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
They did all the same thing to Trump in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, with the FBI raid and all that stuff. Yeah, and he was. What's interesting, with the interesting difference, and I don't know if a lot of people understand this. I've had a little experience with just my background and clearances and documentation and things like that, and so. The president, for lack of a better way to describe this, president is really the author of what is confidential, what is not confidential. So the entire confidential information system that we have, it is built around making sure that the civilian leadership of our government, which would be the president, he would be the elected civilian leader of the federal government, that he has the best information. And so saying that Trump, when Trump goes, hey, this stuff is declassified, and he has it at his place, And then they came in and raided him. Everybody accused him of having classified information that he shouldn't have. That's basically like, it's basically like accusing Stephen King
of plagiarizing his own books.
Yeah.
And I'm not finishing your sentences.
Yeah, but I mean, that's really what it is. The president literally is the author of what is classified and not.
But you said something the other day that was even better about this whole thing, is that those who raided Trump were the FBI and all these people who went after his stuff, but who is going after Joe's stuff?
Yeah, interestingly enough. And Joe is...
Pay attention to that.
The difference between Trump and Joe is that Joe was the vice president
then.
At the time. He has literally no power to authorize or deauthorize what is confidential and what is not.
Now.
outside of because this was all stuff from Barack Obama's time period, but he had no ability to do that. That's not part of his. That was not part of his job as a vice president at the time. But yeah, the interesting thing is who is. And Seth Keshel did a piece on this, and I found it super interesting.
We'll post that link.
But who is the ones that are finding all of this document? It's his lawyers.
Joe's own people.
So you're hearing all this stuff about how dumb Joe is and how, well, it's his internal network of attorneys and White House staff who are the ones that are coming forward with all this stuff. So yeah, it makes me kind of think that there's been a line crossed somewhere, and they know that they're behind the 8 ball. You've gotten through the election, and well, I mean, this last election, we're past that last election as far as the chronological time frame. But now I think you're starting to see the willingness of the machine, Skynet, of deep state, whatever you want to call it. They're willing to chew off one of their own limbs to save themselves. And I think that may be what we're seeing with Joe. And so in the things that you're looking at, again, it's kind of like we've said before, just have a nuanced look at some of this stuff. Don't just knee jerk on the first reaction. Sometimes the stuff is put out there and it's funny and it's comical, but
so comical.
But it's trying to mislead. It's trying to mislead people.
Well, it's back to that misinformation. How much misinformation, not so much and disinformation, can we feed them? To make them go over there? It's like my son when he was a little kid. He was the king of, Mom, Dad, look what I'm doing. look at this. Yeah. And that was going on in the background. And we were like, we're fully watching you do all this stuff. But we find this very funny. The sad thing is people are watching this, seeing this, and they're just pretending this isn't happening. Yeah. And that's the difference between, we talked about this the other day on our own. The difference is that us, those who are awake and watching all this in real time and who are cognizant and going, there's really something freaking wrong. Yeah. We are recognizing that something is wrong and going on, while the other group of people can see that there's something wrong and going on. And if they just are the epitome of, if I just look over here and I pretend it's not happening, it's not going to directly affect me.
And the thing is they're getting the public really confused. And the people that are doing this, it's not like the people that are doing this are some kind of brain surgeons. It's not was that the old rocket scientist or brain surgeon? It's not like the rocket surgeons.
Rocket surgeons?
They're confused as well. Their ideological rabbit holes that they've gone to try to pursue the things that they are. I don't want to really turn this into like the theological episode quite yet.
But we need to touch on some things.
It's kind of like this. We all want to look at the human brain as kind of the end-all be-all of all of our thoughts and who we are and everything that's going on. And the more study we start to do, the more science is pursuing what is consciousness, what is endemic in the body, what really is going on. What they're finding is that you really can't EKG the soul, or ECG or EKG. I can't remember which one it is, but
Yeah.
you can look at the things that are going on in the brain, but you really can't see the activity of what that real core person is. You can see some of the interactions, but people are not going to be as easy to boil down into little ones and zeros as I think the kind of the Yuval Noah Hararis and those people out there as easily as they think.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually stuff that's going on beyond the human body. That's where the soul resides. And now the human mind is kind of like the steering wheel, but the human mind is not the driver. The driver is something that we don't see, not with our eyes. And we want to think of our entire logical thought process as something that's entirely our own. And the Bible talks about this. I think the best way to describe it would to be like, and you've seen this with computer development and software development, that it used to be that I would go and I would buy an Adobe, like Adobe Creative Suite,
Mm-hmm.
and I would buy that suite and I would put it on my computer, and I would actually own a physical copy of that stuff. Well,
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, when you get an Adobe product, you're actually subscribing to it, whether
Yeah.
you're doing a monthly or a 6-month or a yearly subscription. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've looked at them. But you're
I think it's monthly.
you're subscribing to a service. Well, here's the deal with logic. And in the Greek, it's called logos, which is where we actually get the concept of the word, the Bible. It's from this Greek word logos, which is logic. Our logic as human beings is largely a subscription service we get when we will obey the boss, when we will listen to the boss, when we will go to the boss, when we have some allegiance to him.
Mm-hmm.
And the farther individuals and societies and organizations decide that they're going to stray from the boss, the less and less access they have to that subscription service of logical thought. And so you start to see more and more aberrant thinking.
Glitches, that's the glitch in the matrix.
Oh,
you talk about.
glitch in the matrix. I mean, these people, they have entire systems and belief systems and ideas and product lines and everything built on glitches.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why nothing works.
Okay, so there was a saying, and I think you probably know, and I love, don't you love when I always say, there's a saying, and I never know what the saying is. I got to work on that. But it's the whole like...
It's called getting old.
Wow. Let's not talk about old, Mr. I have a birthday in February.
I'm so young. Anyway.
Anyways, the saying is something to the effect of, you have to tell one lie.
Yes.
And then it's like one... If you know it, say it. But it's like the whole idea of they come up with one lie and they're like all talking in the back room. Okay, this is the story. This is it. This is what we're gonna say, and this is our lie. And then it kind of one lie turns into another lie, and then they've got to make something else up, and then it turns into a chain of. You get 5 generations down of this lie, and then they're like, okay, but what was the original lie? Well,
and that's
shit,
exactly
I don't know. What was the original
that's
lie?
exactly what we're looking at. The truth is much easier. It's much easier to operate in the truth because you don't have to remember anything. The truth is just the truth. It's just what's there.
It is what it is, yeah.
But the lies, you have to keep track of all of these iterations of lies, and the lies tend to get more and more absurdly complex.
Yeah.
So that you can keep track with the garbage that you're doing, and that's what they're all caught in. And
One giant lie.
One giant lie.
Well, we're all caught in it too.
Well, to a degree, and this is where, like what we've been talking about, it's time to come out of Babylon. And what is Babylon? It's that Babel. It's that one lie, next lie. It's all this stuff that doesn't make any sense. The book talks about coming out of Babylon. Well, it's time to come out of Babylon. If you want to get through this and you want to be part of what comes after all of this stuff, it's time to let go of that world.
You know, it's funny. I did a pre-video for this, and the quote that I found, which today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, is he said that the best way, the beginning of anything is where you have to stop talking about it and start doing it.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what really we have been diving, and on a personal level, that's what we've been diving into, but that's what I think a lot of people need to get to that point. Everybody has their word of the year. My word of the year is this, or my word of the year is that. mine was value, and I didn't really choose that, but I just know that this year is going to be if it doesn't provide, give, offer, or sustain some sort of value in my life, it's out.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. If I am not offering you value and I don't find that you're offering me value, then I think ties need to be cut. But that goes for job, that goes for all kinds of stuff.
That's simplifying.
Yes.
It's simplifying. We're going to be, I think in our old age, we're going to be much. I was just talking to a friend of mine, another veteran friend of mine, and we're looking at the things that are going on with the military, and we're like, this isn't good. And then we look at the world and you go, man, at what point is the phone going to be ringing and they're going to be asking for some of these older, sane people to show back up? And I'm like, man, I don't know. But I just get this feeling that
Golly, yeah.
we're going to be a lot busier in our old age, whatever it is that we're doing, than I think we thought we were. I think the concept of, oh, I'm going to hit this age and I'm going to retire. Yeah, well, retiring is not biblical. This is another one of those man-made bullshit concepts that we're going to have to let go. And because we're going to be so busy, you're going to have to simplify. You're going to have to let go of superfluous crap.
And that doesn't mean that you can't work to a point where you are allowed to rest.
Yeah.
Work to a point where you're allowed to slow down.
Yeah.
Like in the herbalist world, as you know me on TikTok, I'm Bohemian Holistic, but in that kind of sense of naturopath, it's called wintering. What we're finding is a lot of people get to this January, go end of December, January, February, and you're finding that you used to wake up and you grab your cup of coffee and you're on the go, and now you're kind of like, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to just want to lay here. Yeah. Or you find yourself towards the end of the day, you just want a cup of tea and you want to read a book. And a lot of society and a lot of people look at that and go, you're lazy. That's really not what it is. I mean, there is a distinct line, but it kind of is that wintering is just our body signals. Okay, I've talked about that before. Our body is sending us signals of we are slow. We're slowing down.
Yeah.
Spring is coming. If you look outside, it's sunny today, but it's kind of drab, and the winter is cold and hard to deal with, but that is the renewal of you're going to walk out one day and your crops are going to be popping up, and the kaleidoscope colors are going to show up, and the warm is going to be here, and it's time to get busy doing those things. It's like think about bears. They hibernate. Well, they don't just go to sleep because they're big fat lazy bears. They're prepping for being bears the rest of the year.
The boss has built Sabbaths into everything, and sometimes Sabbaths are a once a week thing, and that's another part of when we get into doing some more of the theology stuff. We're going to actually talk about what Sabbath is, how you find Sabbath, what Sabbath really means, and how do you really truly observe Sabbath. What the modern concept of Sabbath is, what it's turned into, and what it really is biblically. Not quite the same thing, but
boy, we find that on all kinds of levels.
So as far as being busy, and as far as the lunacy, I think one of the concepts we wanted to cover was, and I've talked about this for probably 10, 15 years now, different conversations, but it's this idea of the threat table. Just because of a lot of the research and a lot of my background, the things that I'd been involved in, I came up with this kind of concept of what I called the threat table. In our society, and this goes back to the complexity and why the lunacy that we're seeing is so not good. Our society is like a glass or like a crystal statue, very ornate, very delicate, really tall. And you think about our interactions with all of our digital communications, the power grid, the way our food systems are structured, just all of it. It's very tall. We've done a lot as a society. It's very tall technologically, but it's also very narrow, and it's very brittle. Like crystal, it's brittle. And that statue is actually sitting on a table. And the table, if you know anything about a table is only as stable as its legs. And some of the legs that I started to see early on, this is about halfway through the War on Terror, we started to see things happen under, I think, the Bush administration, then going into the Obama administration, things that were very concerning. 2008, we saw the domestic extremists, and we're in the middle of this global war on terror against a very well-defined enemy, and then suddenly we started to see all of the sharp knives start to point inwards. And so some of the legs on the table, I'll just give them to you real quick. Asymmetric threats. An asymmetric threat is, it's kind of that fourth generation warfare thing that we talked about in our first episode. But asymmetric threat is when a really small group of people figure out a really clever way to screw up everything. This would have been a good example of that. Would have been what we saw back in 2013. I think it was in San Jose, when some nefarious people decided that they could shoot at a particular part of a power substation. And it knocked out all the power for an entire area. So that's an asymmetric threat. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. Some of that's cyber,
that's one leg.
Cyber power. We're starting to see a lot of asymmetric threat stuff happening to our food supply. So that's one leg on the table is asymmetric threats. The second leg on the table is economic collapse. 2008. 2008 was a time when they probably should have let some of the big banks die, and they didn't.
No, they bailed them out.
They bailed them out, and in the process of bailing them out, they printed a whole lot of money, and that gave you more money in the system, but it didn't make the money more valuable. It made the money less valuable. And so the easiest way to describe that would be take a piece of pizza, or take a pizza, and that's the gross domestic product. It's all the value of your country. And if you cut that pizza up 8 ways, you have 8 decent slices of pizza. Well, that's the currency. Well, now you say, well, we got a problem. We need more currency. So you take that same pizza and you cut it up 16 ways. And then you cut it up 32 ways, and 64 ways, and 128 ways, and then 256 ways. Yeah, sure, you have 256 slices of pizza, but that's one 256 slice of pizza is a whole lot different in value than the 1/8 slice of pizza. And that's what has happened to our dollars. And that's why we're seeing inflation. And that's why the dollar is dead. And the deer has been shot in the heart. It is running that 40 yards before it pumps all of its blood out. It's moving, but it's dead on its feet. It just doesn't know it yet. And that's kind of where we're at with the dollar. And so those are some good things to understand.
That was the second leg.
That was the second leg. The third leg is a civil war. And I believe that's what Facebook and Twitter, in its Twitter's prior formation, that's what those were actually for. They collected up a whole bunch of information about all of this, and then
used it against us.
Slowly started using that information to pit us into camps where, and it doesn't matter what the divide was, they figured out Republican versus Democrat, black versus white,
Christian, non-Christian.
Christian, non-Christian, cisgen, whatever, LGBTQIA. Now we are all in militarized, factionalized little camps, and we all have sharp, pointy swords pointing at all of our neighbors. And they wanted that. That's that third leg, that civil war. That's been done on purpose.
Yep.
The fourth is global war. And if anybody has paid attention to the news as of late and what's going on in Russia and what some of the complications of that are and how the sides are lining up, I think there's a good opportunity that this year we're going to see the World Economic Forum come out and have a coming out party as the Reichswef or something to that degree, but you're going to see them actually show their face, I think.
Didn't they have a meeting this weekend?
Yeah, Davos had an emergency meeting.
And their fearless leader
Yeah.
couldn't make it for the first 2 days.
Yeah, because he's having some kind of a health issue. Gosh, that's too bad.
Poor Klaus.
But and they have to have 5,000 Swiss troops to protect them from what? It's interesting.
Swiss troops.
Russia, Ukraine. We've heard the N word, the nuke word, being dropped a whole lot in the last 6 months. So there's the 4 legs on the table. And the deal is this. If you kick any one of those legs, well, a 3-legged table is less stable than a 4-legged table. And if you start kicking on that 3rd leg, well, once you kick that 3rd leg, you're going to get all of them.
And then our crystal society structure
and then
comes tumbling down, baby.
Yeah, that entire statue that's really brittle falls down. And is that scary?
Yes.
Yeah, it was. And it was to us when we started to realize this probably 10 years back.
Yeah.
We went, holy crap. And we tried to talk to a lot of the people around us, and people were just too normalcy bias. They didn't want to see it. They didn't want to understand that there was a problem. They didn't want to look at it because it meant that it would upset the apple cart of the life that they were living.
Yeah.
And so we started to go, okay, what do we need to go past that? Well, as we've gone through COVID, Stan, we've run into more and more people that are, I mean, they're honestly waking up to what's going on.
And we've talked about this before, but you have to understand there is a line. I'm not sure it's so much of a fine line anymore, but there is a line between those who are awake and the group that is woke.
Oh, a line? Good night. There's an ocean.
Okay, there's a big, giant divide. I was trying to be conservative. But yeah, there are lots of people, especially within the last, I don't know, let's see, 12 to 18 months. Isn't that a bizarre coincidental timeline?
And you're going to have to
people are waking, they're coming out of it and they're realizing, wait a second, something is happening or something has happened and it's directly affected me, and now I want to know what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And that's where groups of people, where like us and you, who are out there, who have known and who have witnessed and have kind of just been waiting on the wayside for the rest of the world to figure it out, instead of berating them and coming at them like, damn it, we've been trying to tell you this for 15 years, you frickin' moron, and why didn't you pay attention to us when we were sick? You were calling me stupid way back then.
Hey,
you can handle it that way.
Hold on. Why don't you just tell them how you really feel about
I know,
it? Just stop sugarcoating it.
But you could tell them that, or you could go, glad to have you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a plethora of questions. I think we might have some answers. Sit down. Let me give you some coffee. Want a beer? And let's talk.
And you're going to have to be super, super loving with people.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to have people coming from all walks. I mean, literally all of those groups that they divided us up into. If you want to get through this, you're going to have to be willing to accept strange bedfellows. You're going to have to be willing to people that are waking up coming from all different walks of life, even walks of life that you don't particularly agree with. But we're going to have to find common ground. Yeah. What's interesting, and we talked about this, a couple of days back, is we're hearing all this stuff about devolution and COG, which is continuity of government, and what that is, and basically continuity of government, all these top secret plans that have been going on since 47 is right after World War II.
Long time ago.
But all these plans to have continuity of government, that so if something catastrophic happened, that the government of the United States could continue going, and it's just, I mean, it's a good idea
in theory.
But what's interesting is you look at a lot of these things, and continuity of government always seems to want to, it's kind of like if you ever watched Dr. Strangelove, you want to take all the world's most important people, Davos, and you want to put them in a bunker so that they can outlive the nuclear war or the alien invasion or the meteorite strike, so that they can come out and they'll be the ones that restart the world.
WEF.
And we've had conversations where we're like, do you ever see a congressman out there, you think, planting crops, rebuilding the world? Do you ever see like
the last time We saw anything like that was Mr. Stewart and his peanut farm. And that was what, 1975?
Yeah, you don't.
We all know how well Mr. Stewart was.
And the people that they always want to protect in COG, they're not really the kind of people that you would ever rebuild a world with. They're like the most useless group of MFers. I think they're just not helpful.
No.
You're going to need an electrician. You're going to need contractors.
God, what was the guy? What was the guy from the Trump thing? He was a plumber.
Oh, the plumber.
Joe the plumber.
Man,
come on.
You're going to need people that are the salt of the earth.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Americans, just the average American. Those are going to be the people that rebuild everything.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
We say people.
Yeah.
We talked about this on our own, but we're gonna. This will be another episode that we'll bring up very soon. Is the people that need out with the COG and those who are going to need to restart things. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be him. It's not going to be our age group to a degree. It's going to be our children.
Kids.
We need to raise our children in that mindset.
And that mindset, what is that? So you have the average person, that you're going to need the average kind of salt of the earth people. Your electricians, your carpenters, your contractors, your HVAC guy, your refrigerator people, people that are going to be able to get power back on, people that are going to know how to drill and install water pumps, all of that. That's basically your average American. Well, that was our average American 40, 50 years ago. The problem is that the indoctrination that we have all suffered through as parents, watching our kids getting spooled off onto all of this nonsense, whether it is, I mean, we look at transgenderism and some of the things we're seeing now, and we're like, oh my God, this is so bad. You don't understand how bad it is. These kids, they don't know the Constitution. They don't understand the basics of like the justice system. They don't understand what it is to be a good citizen. No. They don't have work ethic. They don't have a solid understanding of mathematics beyond a classroom. Nobody has taken math and turned it into, well, this is how you build a house. This is how you frame a wall. Nobody has taken their science class and said, well, this is how you do hydroponics in a garden.
There was an article 2 or 3 days ago that came out. Well, I would love to post it, but a friend of mine posted it, and we were laughing because it was a girlfriend of mine that I had in high school, and we were in the same class together. And she goes, "Oh my God, look what they are advertising as something brand new!" And it was high school classes are now offering adulting courses that teach them how to cook, sew, and balance their checkbook. And we're like, motherfuckers, and I'm going to say it. I was forced to take that class when it was required. It was called home economics, man.
Wait, are you do any of the kids out there now, where's the auto shop classes? Do they know how to repair an automobile? Do they know how to change out an engine? Do they know how to swap out a transmission? My son and I just had to do this in a couple different vehicles in the last, year and a half? Year and a half, yeah. So at least my kid knows how some of that works, but is he getting that education from school? No. Everything they're doing at school is either indoctrination or it's teaching to the next test.
Yeah.
And they're teaching kids how to be really good test takers. Well, that may be great in the world economic vision of the world.
Which we're not going to let happen. Sorry. We're not going to let it happen.
And it's garbage. It's the same kind of nonsense. It is what is leading to those legs being kicked off the table. Yeah. And so, this is what we're trying to, like I said, warn people against. What you really need to do is do, I don't know, COG at a 1 in our families, 2 in our neighborhoods, communities, towns, counties. That's where COG should be focused.
Local level. At the local level.
Who's gonna do the rebuilding? I don't know. It's gonna be independent, rugged, well-rounded, well-equipped for life.
Those with
that's who it
intellectual
is.
forethought.
Yeah. And so when you're looking at these things and you're wrapping your head around some of this complex stuff, is it doable? Yeah. It's Second Chronicles, I think 20.
Yeah.
I think it's either 20 or 22, but it's where all of these armies come against Israel and Jehoshaphat is the king. And basically the boss tells them, hey, stand, listen to me, just stand, watch what I'm going to do. And all of their enemies wind up destroying each other right down to the last man. Well, same boss, same kind of problems, same solutions. What do you do as part of standing? Well, when this is all boiled over, what are you going to rebuild with?
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to hopefully communicate to you guys is it's time to start thinking that way. It's time to start detaching from Babylon. It's time to stop feeding their bullshit system.
Ask yourself this question. I asked it on my Instagram and I got quite a good response. Are you tired of paying them to poison you? Think about that. Are you tired of doling out your hard-earned dollars to those who are doing everything they can in their capability to kill us?
Yeah. And what does that poisoning, what does that killing us looks like? I don't know. Look at your own life.
Yeah. Look around. Look at your life and your circle around you.
Yeah.
It'll be very apparent.
And it's going to be the products. It's going to be the kind of leadership. It's going to be for some of us. It's the place where we work. A lot of it, especially is boiling down right now. We're seeing with Ukraine and the billions and $1.7 trillion spending. It's the money. It's literally the money. So what do you do to not feed them? And those are some of the things that you can start to, and I think we're all going to, we're going to start having an impact here before too long.
Yeah. Vote with your dollars.
Yeah.
Shop smart.
Yeah.
Stand strong. Be bold.
Live local.
Stop being afraid of the boogeyman because he's not real.
Well, he's real. But he's not.
Okay.
He's not
yes,
the image.
But their boogeyman, which is the, I'm wearing my white sheet with my 14 black, like Charlie Brown's, the 14 black holes, and I'm the ghost that's here to scare you. And they're expecting us to be like, no. And the rest of us are like,
if you know any,
Scooby-Doo that asshole and take the damn mask off.
It's like this. If you know anything about animals. It says in the book that the enemy roams around like a roaring lion, seeing who he can devour. Real lions?
Oh yeah.
Real lions, they don't have to walk around roaring and letting everybody know who they are. They don't have to have a sign saying I'm a lion. They don't have to have a billboard or a marketing campaign. Everybody knows damn well what they are.
God, that probably could have helped.
And that's
Simba.
That's
whatever his name was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where was his marketing campaign, damn it?
That was that's the difference between the enemy and the boss. And so just figure out where your allegiance lies. Okay. All right.
Sorry, it's in my head now. Lion King.
Oh my gosh. You know, I don't even think I've ever seen The Lion King.
Hakuna Matata.
I've seen bits and
I could
pieces
bust
of
out.
it, but
I could do Phil Collins' Circle of Life.
Please don't.
No, that wasn't Phil Collins. Oh my God, Elton John? Who did that song? I really need to know what I'm saying before I say the things I say.
Okay, Mrs. Claus.
We're done.
That mean old casino cleaned my pants and hung him out to dry. Drown the town of Reno, leave the lights on, let him die.